So good morning. I am joined today by Sarah Corbett from the Children and Families Directorate at Scottish Government. She is the GIRFEC Policy Manager in that team. How are you, Sarah?
I'm very well, thank you, Francesca. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You've just given us a really wonderful overview of what's coming up with the GIRFEC guidance refresh. And for those of you that are watching this, if you are interested in looking at that in more detail, there is another video where Sarah has shared some slides, and there's also a contact email address for those that want to get in touch and ask further questions. But now I really wanted to take this opportunity to have a bit more of an informal Q&A with you, just to kind of go a bit more depth into what's coming up with the guidance refresh. And as I say, what you've just shared with us in your presentation was quite thorough. But for those of us that might just be watching this portion of today's interview, first of all, I would quite like to hear why certain aspects of the GIRFEC guidance have been focused on in the policy refresh. So particularly information sharing, the GIRFEC practice model, the named person, the lead professional, and the statutory guidance.
Thank you. Yes, that's a good question. And when I first joined the GIRFEC team, which was in June 2019, there had been a plan, I think, to do, one big piece, if you like, of almost like a GIRFEC guidebook that would explain everything. And some work had gone into that. So we have used the materials that had already been developed when that was the thinking. They have gone into the current guidance. But we thought we had a couple of concerns about that. And one was that was something that, for practitioners in the field, to approach such quite a vast document really might be perhaps a bit off-putting and might lead to people being perhaps less likely. So we wanted to we came up with this idea that we would have the policy statement that talked about the overarching approach of GIRFEC and why we're doing it and what it hopes to achieve. And we would add kind of like chapters, sections that would focus on different aspects of GIRFEC. And that we thought was something that would be more approachable for people. We started also at the same time to think more about the fact that we do expect that children, young people and families would want to look at this guidance as well and understand, what to expect from practitioners. So we were starting to think more about making sure that the materials are accessible for everybody as far as possible. And I know that's an approach that the Alliance are really keen on, making sure that people understand the same as what practitioners are using as their guidance. And we also simultaneously, I think, as the work went on, realised that it was quite a huge piece of work, and it would perhaps lead to the whole project being delayed if we tried to do everything at once. So we focused on these bits of practice guidance we think are key, are really important to practitioners. There's been a lot of engagement to try to understand what is most important and what is going to give people the guidance that they need to continue to deliver GIRFEC with confidence that they're doing it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this then links well with the fact that the update of the child's plan guidance is being kind of not focused on at the moment. And I think there's a bit more that you wanted to say about this too.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, the child's plan, the guidance on the child's plan is absolutely key, but we expect there to be there's some particular questions to ask, I think, for us to make sure that we really get this right, because there's various types of child's plan that people will hear talked about. Things, coordinated support plans. There's different plans that are talked about for children and young people for different reasons that come from different quarters. And what we really need to get right is how all of those things interact. And we need to make sure that all the stakeholders that are involved in those different types of plan, that they are they're comfortable that what we say about child's plan takes account of all those issues, because that has caused some difficulties in some areas. I think that's probably fair to say that has been a bit of a challenge. So that's going to take a lot of engagement, but we've learned a lot from the process, and I think that's really good. We've built up a new team almost since the pandemic. We have new faces in the GIRFEC team, And we've learnt a lot from the process that we've gone through with the co-production work and with consulting with, with other Scottish Government policy areas and preparing for the consultation. So I think we go into this possibly slightly more challenging area of child's plan. We're better equipped now, I think, to deal with that. And I think we can sort of realistically, we resumed work on the existing suite of materials in March of this year. And with the consultation now, we'll be closing very early 2022. I'm checking myself because 2021 has gone so fast. So I think realistically, it's going to be probably later in 2022 that we actually have the child's plan guidance ready to go, even with the lessons that we've learned. Because one thing that we've learned is not to rush, to rush these things.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. And actually something that kind of links in quite well with what you've just described is that linking in of different policy areas and insights gathered. So also kind of touching on some of the things that you just mentioned in your presentation was just making sure that the lessons from the UNCRC incorporation and the promise, the results of the independent review on social care are taken into account adequately as well in the guidance refresh process. Is that something that you're making sure to really take into account as the consultation phase begins as well?
Yes, we work with our policy colleagues, and I say there was that internal consultation with other Scottish Government areas, so we make sure that they're represented and they have the opportunity to comment. And going forward into the child's plan, we've realised the value of and also how complex it can be to identify all the policy areas, all these pieces of legislation and these pieces of work that are interacting. And I think we always kind of think, well, there's a danger of thinking let's see what this other group says, but the key thing is to work together as we develop and these things evolve.
Wonderful. Another thing that I picked out from your presentation, which I thought was really important, and again probably related to what we're discussing now, is to really have this holistic view about the child's well-being. Is there anything else you would like to add about this and how it feeds into the refresh process before we close? I have another question, but they're just closing questions. So I thought I would get in there before that.
Yes, it's one of those things that that I think would be really interesting to see from the consultation feedback, whether have we really got that across? Because I sometimes wonder whether the terms that we use are again capturing that, and we don't want to write something that's so lengthy that people don't want to read it. But I'm not always sure whether people understand when we say holistic. Yeah. What is meant by this is, so it's a little bit challenging, I think, to really get across this that none of the Shinari indicators can ever be taken in isolation. So it will be interesting to see. Hopefully, we've managed to explain that, particularly in the assessment of wellbeing guidance.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So I suppose we've kind of covered this a bit in the course of our conversation, but I'd be really interested to hear, and I think the people viewing this video would be really interested to hear, what is Scottish Government hoping to get out of the consultation phase of the GIRFEC guidance refresh?
And the key thing that we want to get out of the consultation process is to make sure that we are giving people clarity, that practitioners are confident. And I was particularly involved in information sharing work, and that's something that does come up from time to time, is this question of getting the balance right between respecting people's rights and not oversharing information if it's not beneficial, and involving people in that process if they don't find that information has been shared that they're not comfortable with. But at the same time, there's times that is absolutely, and this is something that the independent care review talks about, that it's absolutely critical that practitioners kind of hold that piece of the jigsaw that's absolutely vital to somebody's well-being, the well-being of a child. And we from time to time we see the tragic results when people don't have the confidence. So that's something that's within the information sharing. That's something that is absolutely critical. We want to make sure that people will come away with the confidence to get information sharing right. But that's true across the piece with all of these. Is making sure that there's that we've eliminated sort of misapprehensions that are going around about what is happening with GIRFEC, and I still do hear them from time to time. Not so much from people that are directly involved with the work. But there are some sort of misunderstandings around. So we want to make sure that the guidance that we put out gives people the confidence to carry on delivering GIRFEC, which for the most part practitioners are doing extremely well.
Right. Thank you so much. Is there anything additional that you would like to share with us today? You've really covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time, so I'm really grateful. But maybe there's something else that you wanted to share today that I haven't asked.
No, I would just like to say thank you for sort of providing this opportunity and providing the sort of the space within the Alliance for us to prepare this video, and I hope that it's helpful for anyone who takes the time to view it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And just to end on, actually, if you wouldn't mind sharing again, you said this in the other video that we recorded with the presentation, but just again, if you could tell the audience when the consultation is happening and for how long.
The consultation will be starting in autumn 2021. We want to be absolutely certain that we are in a position to share the British Sign Language videos and the easy read versions. And the challenge of giving you an exact date is I don't want to give you a date, and then if we don't have everything ready, we want to offer everything on an equal footing. But I'm going to be slightly cagey and say the second half of October. We're pretty confident about it. I don't want to disappoint anyone, and we have committed quite early on to saying that we will have all the accessible versions that people have told us would be helpful, that we will have them all available right at the beginning. So again, that's been a lesson. It's been a lesson for us, not so much in the importance of having them available, because we completely understood that, but the process when you have these sort of 6 different bits of work, some of which are quite complex, for the translators to express those complex ideas into easy read so that's taken a bit of time. We want to get it right.
Thank you very much.